Hey guys, it's Jessica from Studio Quirk. Today, I'd like to guide you through what I consider to be the essential tools you'll want in your sewing kit. Let's start with scissors. First, you want to have some really nice sharp cutting shears that you don't use for anything else. I have Gingers here and I've used them for a long time. I think they're really great. You also want to have a pair of craft scissors. These are for anything that's not fabric. These are inexpensive and you can replace them as often as you need to. Finally, I recommend a teeny tiny pair of little embroidery scissors. These are great for when you have seams you need to take out, like basting seams or if you've made a mistake, or opening up buttonholes. There are two essential measuring tools you'll need. The first being a seam gauge for very small measurements, either in millimeters or 1/8 of an inch, and then a soft, long tape measure to measure the shape of your body or your garments or projects as you work. Next are your straight pins. I like to have at least two sizes on hand, one for thicker fabrics, another for finer, more delicate fabrics, and I keep mine in this wristlet pin cushion, so wherever I am in my sewing room, my pins are always right where I need them. The humble little thimble. I think that it's good for a lot of people to have to protect your fingers, although I never use one. I'm still going to recommend it for a beginner though. Safety pins are something that I always seem to be missing and it's hard to find them, so I do keep a couple in my pin cushion. They can be really helpful for a number of things, but especially when you're using a fabric that has the same right and wrong side, I like to use safety pins to denote which way is the outside of the garment. One thing I never want to run out of are machine sewing needles, so I always make sure to pick up extra packs when I am at the fabric store. I really like the Schmetz brand. I love Microtex needles because they're extra sharp, and I like to make sure I have needles in various sizes to work with varying degrees of fabric. Speaking of needles, make sure to get a pack of assorted hand sewing needles. You'll break them, you'll lose them. It's always good to have lots around. I like to have a couple different ways to mark my fabric. One thing I love is a friction pen. It erases, if you will, when you put a hot iron over it. And I also like to use a traditional tailor's chalk. If I'm working on dark fabric, it obviously shows up better. Both tools are very handy. Inevitably, you're going to have to rip some stitches out. I like to have a pair of tweezers on hand, and I also have seam rippers, although they can be kind of brutal if you're not careful, so beginners, beware. I like to have clear tape on hand, whether it's to assemble PDF patterns or to mark a zipper line that I want to do super straight. It can be useful, so I like to keep it in my sewing box. I also keep a hammer in my sewing box. I use this to break down really thick seams, like when you're making jeans. It can really reduce bulk, and it's overall really handy, so I definitely keep one in my sewing room. A pressing ham is a tool used to iron or press over parts of your garment that have become curved, like where you put in darts, and you really cannot get the same effect with just a flat sewing board. Here are a few more tools you might want to use as you develop your sewing kit. I like having a clear quilter's ruler. This one's 18 inches. It's great for pattern alterations, and it's just nice to take beyond your seam gauge or your measuring tape when you're doing something that needs more length. I also use wax-free tracing paper and a little rotary perforated tool that goes with it. This is great for transferring things like darts or any information on the inside of the pattern where you need to transfer it to both sides of your fabric. When you're able to add pinking shears to your scissor collection, I do recommend them. They're a nice way to do sort of an old-fashioned seam finish. I often will just pink the edges of my cotton garments to finish them off, and then they won't unravel. These little thread snips are great for when you're going over your project at the very end, looking for any loose threads and quickly just snip, 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 taking them away. And lastly, I have an awl. I use it a lot for really random stuff. What it does is instead of cutting fibers, it just pushes them apart. All right, that's it. How many times can I say handy in this video? Too many. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, drop your questions below. I've got links to all of these products. I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel or follow me on Instagram at Jessica J. Quirk.